The Catalogue of the Grecian Ships and Captains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Catalogue of the Grecian Ships and Captains. Peneleus and Leotis, all that Boeotia bred, Arcesilaus, Clonius, and Prothoenor led. Thus begins a extremely time-consuming process of oh, there we go, that's better. Of matching names to the pronunciation guide. For anyone who doesn't know, the catalog of ships is it's a list, it's a catalog of everybody and every place they came from. And so it's I think it's a very exciting part of the Iliad, especially of this translation, but I don't want to get the names wrong, pronounced wrong. So I've built my pronunciation guide, and I'm going to be meticulously matching every single name to it. Peneleus and Leotis, of Grecian ships and captains. Peneleus and Leotis, all that Boeotia bred, Arcesilaus, Clonius, and Prothoenor led. Peneleus and Leotis, all that Boeotia bred, Arcesilaus, Clonius, and Prothoenor led. The inhabitants of Hyria and stony Aulida, Skene, Scoli, the hilly Ition, and holy Thespia. On other audiobooks, I've actually remade the text as a phonetic version, but this time I didn't do that. Skene. I'll basically be doing it as needed, which, for example, is right now. Hyria. Aulida. I don't know about that one, but I gotta trust the pronunciation guide I set up. Ition. Basically, I checked every one of them against the ancient Greek pronunciation, Scoli. And then I, it's lucky that I've been studying ancient Greek, so I know how to pronounce this stuff. And then I'm also taking into account the fact that this one is using a lot of Latin versions of things, so trying to Latinize it and then obviously turn it all into English. Like this is different than Peter Green's. If I was doing Peter Green's one, for example, who is specifically trying to make every name sound like the ancient Greek version of the pronunciation, this one is somewhere between that, further towards the Latin side. Clonius and Prothoenor led. The inhabitants of Hyria, and Prothoenor led. The inhabitants of Hyria and the inhabitants of Hyria and stony Aulida, Skene, Scoli, the hilly Aetian, and holy Thespia. Clonius and Prothoenor led, the inhabitants of Hyria and stony Aulida, the inhabitants of Hyria and stony Aulida, Skene, Scoli, and the inhabitants of Hyria, the stony Aulida, the inhabitants of Hyria and the inhabitants of Hyria and stony Aulida, Skene, Scoli, the hilly Aetian, and holy Thespia. Aulida, Skene, Scoli, the hilly Aetian, and holy Thespia. And holy Thespia of Grena. I'll build this part too. Gria. Figured that one was. Of Gria and great Mycalus that hath the ample plain. Yeah, some of these I'm clued into the way I'm going to pronounce it based on how many syllables are in that line. So you can kind of be clued into what Chapman was trying to, to fit into that. Because sometimes he's not, like for Diomedes, he's calling him Diomed most of the time to fit into the rhyming or the, syllables that are needed for that line. Ilesius. Okay. Elian. This will take likely more than one recording session to do this. This section, but as long as it takes. And holy Thespia of Gria and great Mycalus that hath the ample plain of Harma and Ilesius and all that did remain in Erith and in Elian in Hylan, Petiona. Skene, Scoli, the hilly Aetian, and holy Thespia, of Gria and great Mycalus that hath the ample plain, of Harma and Ilesius, and all that did remain in Erith and in Ilian, in Erith and in Ilian, did remain in Erith and in Elian, in Hylian and in Elian, in Erith and in Elian, in Erith and in Elian, in Hylan, Petiona. I'm going to change that one to be Elian. The final kind of like line of defense on this is the way that English would be whatever you call it, like not translated but transliterated or whatever from Latin, which would be from ancient Greek, and a lot of that stuff there's kind of standardized ways. So sometimes you kind of override what would be correct in the other two languages based on what would be natural for English speakers. Of Harma and Iliasis and all that did remain in Eris and in Elian, in Hylian, and in Elian, in Hylan Pitiona. Okalea. Madonna. At the end of the day, there's never one correct way to pronounce any of these. So it's more about coming up with something that you're going to do and then sticking to it. Did I not have Thisbe on here? I do not have that. Well, I'm pretty sure it's Thisbe. Coronea. Halliart. Platea. I don't have that either, do I? Oh, it's written as a... Okay, Platea. Glissa. When I did Post America, I actually saved my phonetic pronunciation guides. Because then I could use them again for other sections sometimes. Although it's not really that necessary. I'll just call it book 2-1. But you can see why editing is really important for this, because it's obviously nowhere close to being an actual contiguous performance. You know, you have to put it together in post. That hath the ample plain of Harma and Ilesius, and all that did remain, in Eris and in Elian, in Hylan Pitiona, in fair Okalea, and the town well built, in fair Okalea, and the town well builded Madonna, Copus Eutreus, Thisbe, that for pigeons did surpass, of Coronea Halliot, that hath such store of grass, all those in Hylan Petiona, in fair Okalea, and the town well builded Madonna, Copus Eutreus, in Eris and in Elian, in Hylan Petiona, in fair Okalea, and the town well builded Madonna, Copus Eutreus, Thisbe, that for pigeons did surpass, Copus Eutreus, Thisbe, that for pigeons, Copus Eutreus, Thisbe, that for pigeons did surpass, Eutreus, Thisbe, that for pigeons did surpass, Eutreus, Thisbe, that for pigeons did surpass, of Coronea Halliot, that hath such store of grass, all those in Platea, Halliot, that hath such store of grass, all those in that hath such store of grass. All those that in Plataea dwelt, that Glyssa did possess. All those that in Plataea dwelt, that Glyssa did possess, and Hypothebes, whose well-built walls are rare and fellowless. In rich Onchestus' famous wood, to watery Neptune vowed, and Arne, where the vine trees are with vigorous branches bowed. And Arne, where the vine trees are with vigorous branches bowed. Where the vine trees are with vigorous bunches bowed. Hypothebes. Onchestus. For ones where there's slightly fewer, names, I can kind of no, I don't have to make the entire pronunciation, or rather the phonetic version of the guide. I can just check my references. Medea. Medea. Nyssa. Antedon. I don't like that. Why did I set that up that way? And, well, I guess that's right. One, two, three. To watery Neptune vowed, and Arne, in rich Onchestus' famous wood, to watery Neptune vowed, and Arne, where the vine trees are with vigorous bunches bowed, with them that dwelt in Medea, and Nyssa most divine, all those whom utmost Antedon. I don't like that pronunciation. It doesn't seem natural to me. I'm going to say Antedon. And Nyssa most divine, all those whom utmost Antedon did wealthily confine. With them that dwelt in Medea, and Nyssa most divine. Bunches bowed. With them that dwelt in Medea, bunches bowed. With them that dwelt in Medea, and Nyssa most divine, all those whom utmost Antedon did wealthily confine. All those whom utmost Antedon did wealthily confine. From all these coasts in general, full 50 sail were sent. From all these coasts in general, full 50 sail were sent. And 60 strong Boeotian. From all these coasts in general, full 50 sail were sent. And 60 strong Boeotian. And 60 strong Boeotian youths. And 60 strong Boeotian youths in every burthen went. Full 50 sail were sent, and 60 strong Boeotian, youths in every burthen went. All right, for this it's sort of a tongue twister, the 60 strong Boeotian youths. Aspledon. I don't love that pronunciation either. Aspledon. Minion. Orchomen. Ascalaphus. Right? Yeah. I don't need that one because I know how he's pronounced. Ialmen. Oziden. Astayaki. All right. Let's save this as book 2-2. I don't know why I save these phonetic guides, but for example, if I had to redo this chapter, I would at least have the guides that I made. I wouldn't waste the time remaking them. Did wealthily confine. From all these coasts in general, full 50 sail were sent, and 60 strong Boeotian youths in every burthen went. But those who in Asplidon dwelt, and Minian Orcamen. I want to say Minian. I'll go with what I wrote. But those who in Asplidon dwelt, every burthen went. But those who in Asplidon dwelt, and Minian Orcamen, God Mars' sons did lead, Ascalaphus and Ialmen. And Minian Orcamen, God Mars' sons did lead, Ascalaphus and Ialmen, who in Oziden actor's house did of Astayaki come, who in Oziden actor's house did of Astayaki come. The bashful maid, as she went up into the higher room, the war gods secretly compressed, and in safe conduct of these did her, who in Oziden actor's house did of Astayaki come. The bashful maid, as she went up into the higher room, the war gods secretly compressed. In safe conduct of these, yeah, he's trying to rhyme come with room, which in some like if you pronounce room like rum, which some people do, it would work, but I don't, and I'm not going to force it. As she went up into the higher room, the war gods secretly compressed. In safe conduct of these, did 30 hollow-bottom barks divide the wavy seas. In safe conduct of these, did 30 hollow-bottom barks divide the wavy seas. Did 30 hollow-bottomed barks divide the wavy seas. Brave Scydius and Epistrophus, the Phocian captains were. Well, I'm going to need one for this. Oops. I guess I'll do it by contingent rather than just like little sections. It's very time-consuming to do this, but again, I'm not making a video that's like a oops. This isn't a video like meant to be consumed for entertainment purposes. That you're just watching my process. The actual, the way an audiobook gets made. Let's see the book 2. I didn't have a thing for Epistrophus. Episteropodon. pulse. I'm going to call that epistrophus. Na bolida. Do I not have one for iphitus? I assume it's iphitus. Iphitus? In Greek, it's probably iphitus. Yeah. Iphitos. Iphitos. But with the Latin version, it would be iphitus, I would say. All right. IP. Iphitus. The Cyparicians. Cyparicians. I could also probably accept Cyparicians, but Pythonian? Python. Pythian, that's not right. Pythonian. That sounds good. Yeah, this is the longest chapter I expect will take to actually record, just because of the nature of the beast. Which is, it was also really, I'm happy I did a kind of like a run of this before doing this. We did like an entire thing of the catalog of ships already, so that I could get a feel for it, because you have to have kind of a North Star for this, because it's so broken up the way that I'm recording it. For the next session, I could probably prep a guide like this beforehand, I guess. Lilia. Lilia. Sufficient. Fickensian. I think I would call that one Fickensian. From Phocis. Oh, Boeotian, so we know how that's pronounced. Yeah, the problem is sometimes when I copy the text to make this phonetic guide, it doesn't understand the letters, and then it could cause me to do a different mispronunciation because it didn't copy the text properly. And fat Daulidians. Yeah, so I kind of check it beforehand against itself. All right. To that designment bring. Brave Schedius and Epistrophus, the Phocian captains were, Naubolida Iphitus' sons, all proof against any fear. With them the Cyparisians went, and bold Pythonian, men of religious Chrysa's soil, and fat Darlidians, Panopeans, and Anamores, and fierce Hyampolists, and those that dwelt where Cephas dwell where Cephisus cast up his I don't love that pronunciation. Cephisus cast up his silken mists. The men that fair Iliad held near the sufficient spring, all which did 40 sable barks to that designment bring, about the entoiled. That's incorrectly written. Designment bring, about the entoiled Phocian fleet had these their sail assigned, and near to the sinister wing the armed Boeotians shined. Okay. 30 hollow-bottomed barks divide the wavy seas. Brave Schedius and Epistrophus the Phocian captains were, Naubolida Iphitus' sons, all proof against any fear. With them the Cyparisians went, and bold Pythonian, men of Chrysa's soil, and fat Pythonian, men of religious Chrysa's soil, and fat Darlidians, Panopeans, Anamores, and fierce Hyampolists. Okay. And bold Pythonian, men of religious Chrysa's soil, and fat Darlidians, Panopeans, Anamores, and fierce Hyampolists, and those that dwell where Cephisus cast up his silken mists. Men of religious Chrysa's soil, and fat Darlidians, Panopeans, Anamores, and fierce Hyampolists, and those that dwell where Cephisus casts up his silken mists, the men that fair Lilia held near the sufficient spring, all which did 40 sable barks to that designment bring. Which fair Lilia held near the sufficient spring, all which did 40 sable barks to that designment bring. About the entoiled designment bring. About the entoiled Phocian fleet, these their fair. About the entoiled that designment bring. About the entoiled Phocian fleet, these had their sail assigned. I thought we're. It can't be saying that the previous people we were just talking about are the ones who just had their sails assigned by the Phocian fleet, because we're talking about the captains of Phocis. It's probably saying the Boeotians who did that. I guess. Sable barks to that designment bring. About the entoiled Phocian fleet, these had their sail assigned. About the entoiled Phocian fleet, these had their sail assigned, and near the sinister wing the armed Boeotians shined. Their sail assigned, and near to the sinister wing the armed Boeotians shined. The armed Boeotians shined. Ajax the less, Oileus' son, the Locrians led to war. Not like to Ajax Telamon, but lesser man by far. Led to war. Not like to Ajax Telamon, but lesser man by far. Little he was, and ever wore a breastplate. Little he was, and ever wore a breastplate made of lin. But for the manage of his lance, his general praise did win. The dwellers of Calliorus, of Bessa, of Opoen. Here we go. Calaris. Oh, is that right? That's got to be a typo. It sounds better, but it's not for the word that's written. Calliorus. Let's go with that. Calliaros. Bessa. That's got to be, yeah, Bessa. Opoen. Sinus. Really? I guess that makes sense. Scarfus. Scarfus. Augeas. Like the guy. I guess. I'm going to check that again. It's not talking about the guy whose stables Heracles cleaned out. Augeas. 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 Yeah, I like that better because it doesn't make sense to me that it would be pronounced like... I mean, it could be pronounced like the guy, but it just makes it kind of... confusing. What is this contingent we're talking about? Ajax the Lesser. That's Locris. Thronius. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty interesting because if you just search for what looks in this like Augeas, it's going to come up with Augeas, the guy with the stables. But you got to make a choice about that separately from, in order to differentiate it for the reader's sake. A breastplate made of lin, but for the manage of his lance, his general praise did win. The dwellers of Caliaris, of Bessa Opoen. I'm going to say Opoen because of the way the meter falls. The dwellers of Caliaris, of Bessa Opoen, the youths of Stynus, Scarfus, and Augeas, lovely men. Scarfus and Augeas, lovely men. It wants to be Augeas, I think. All right, it's Augeas then. The youths of Sinus, Scarfus, and Augeas, lovely men, of Tarfus and Augeas, lovely men, of Tarsus and of Thronius, near flood Boagrius fall. Twice 20 martial barks of these, less Ajax sailed withal. Near flood Boagrius fall. Twice 20 martial barks of these, twice 20 martial barks of these, less Ajax sailed withal. Twice 20 martial barks of these, twice 20 martial barks of these, less Ajax sailed withal. Who near Euboea's blessed soil their habitations had, strength withal. Who near Euboea's blessed soil their habitations had, strength-breathing Abants, who in their seats in sweet Euboea made. The Histians rich in grapes, the men of Calcada, the Carents bordering on the sea of rich Eretria. Histians. Chalkida. The Histians rich in grapes, the men of Chalkida. I guess I could do that. What was my logic with that? Chalkida. I guess that's why. The Carents. Eretria. Dion. I guess Dion. Or Dion. D-I. All right, let's start making the guide for this because it's going to get... Histians. Chalkida. Carinths. Eritrea. Charistus. Styre. Figured that. Alphenor. Chalcontiades. Chalcodontiades. Abans. Okay. This is Abans. Who near Euboea's sailed with all. Who near Euboea's blessed soil their habitations had, strength-breathing Abans, who in their seats sweet Euboea made. The Histians rich in grapes, the men of Chalkida, the Carinths bordering on the sea of rich Erythrea. Of Dian's highly seated town, Charistus, and of Styre. All these the Duke Alphenor led, a flame of Mars's fire. Of Dian's highly seated town, Charistus, and of Styre. Oh wait, I didn't use my own pronunciation. Of Dian's. Of rich Erythrea. Of Dian's highly seated town, Charistus, and of Styre. All these the Duke Alphenor led, a flame of Mars's fire. Surnamed Chalcontiades, the mighty Abans guide, swift men of foot, whose broad set backs their trailing hair did hide, well seen in fight, and soon could pierce with far extended darts the breastplates of their enemies, and reach their dearest hearts. 40 black men of war did sail in this Alphenor's charge. 40 black men of war did sail in this Alphenor's charge. Their dearest hearts. 40 black men of war did sail in this Alphenor's charge. 40 black men of war did sail in this Alphenor's charge. All right. I might be able to do this off the top of my head. In this Alphenor's charge. The soldiers that in Athens dwelt, a city builded large, this Alphenor's charge. The soldiers that in Athens dwelt, a city builded large, the people of Eurystheus, whom Jove sprung Pallas fed, and plenteous feeding Tellus brought out of her flowery bed. Him Pallas placed in her rich fane, and every ended year, of bulls and lambs the Athenian used Of bulls and lambs the Athenian youths please him with offerings there. Mighty Menesthius, Petius' son, had their divided care. For horsemen and for targeteers none could with him compare, nor put them into better place to hurt or to defend. But Nestor, for he elder was, with him did sole contend. With him came 50 sable sail, and out of Salamine great Ajax brought 12 sail, that with the Athenians did combine. Now I'll just check the ones that I said to make sure I said it right. Aristeus, I said that right. Tellus. That's pretty much it. The next one I'm definitely going to need. Oops. Phonetic guide. So what I mean by this phonetic guide is that I'm basically taking the text of the book and replacing every name with my own written phonetic pronunciation that I had prepared beforehand when I made the pronunciation guide. So like instead of writing TIRYNTHA, it says TIH dash capital RIN dash lowercase THUH, so that I can read it phonetically and, not skip a beat pretty much. This one I don't have. Hermione, I'm going to say it is. I don't think I need to, don't think I need to check that one. Asanin. Treasona. Ian. Ayan. I don't know how that one would be pronounced. EI. I don't have that one written down. What? Oh. Okay. Aeon. It's a tough one. Aeon. Iron. All right. EI. Iron. Epidor. Aegina. Mesita. did follow Diomed and Sthenelus and a famous Campanus, Euryalus, Mecistius. These are all obvious, or rather, I know these names already. What is this? Talionides. Mycenae. Corinth. Cleon, is it pronounced like... I guess I would do it like Cleon, the guy from the play. Erythrea. Erythrea. Oh yeah, because the Y comes. Erythrea. And in Ornia's plain. Ornia. And Sikiona. Adrastus. Gonoessa. When I try to copy the text, it's always a big problem because Chapman used that sort of like AE character that Latin uses. And also uses like the 2 dots over some letters, and it has a real hard time trying to copy that text. So I usually have to just look it up in my guide. I can't copy paste that to check it against my guide. Aegeus. This would be Helicee. Okay. That's a big one. The Argives. The Argives from Argos. The Athenians did combine. Great Ajax brought 12 sail that with the Athenians did combine. Who in fruitful Argos dwell, or strong Terintha keep, Hermian or in Asinen, whose bosom is so deep, Treasonen is so deep, Treasona, Ion, Epidor, where Bacchus crowns his head. Treasona, Ion, Epidor, where Bacchus crowns his head. Aegina and Mesist. Treasona, Ion, Epidor, where Bacchus crowns it. Epidor, where Bacchus crowns his head. Aegina and Mesita's soil did follow. Who in fruitful Argos dwell, or strong Terintha keep, Hermian or in Asinen, whose bosom is so deep, Treasona, Ion, Epidor, where Bacchus crowns his head, Aegina and Mecista's soil did follow Diomed, and Sthenelus, the dear-loved son of famous Campanus, together with Euryalus, heir of Mecistius, the king of Talionides, whom past deeds Talionides, past whom in deeds of war the famous soldier Diomed was held. Talionides, past whom in deeds of war. Talionides, past whom in the king of Talionides, past whom in deeds of war the famous soldier Diomed, past whom in deeds of war the famous soldier Diomed was held, past whom in deeds of war the famous soldier Diomed of past whom in deeds of war the famous soldier Diomed of all was held by far. 80 black ships did follow these, was held by far. 80 black ships did follow these. Did follow these. The men fair Mycenae held, the wealthy Corinth, Cleon, that for beauteous sight excelled, Erythraea's lovely seat, and in Ornea's plain, and Sicyona's Erythraea's lovely seat, and in Ornea's plain, and Sicyona, where at first did King Adrastus reign, high-seated Gonorrhessa's towers, and Hypericius, that dwelt in fruitful Pellene, and divine Aegeus. That dwelt in fruitful Pellene, and in divine Aegeus. In fruitful Pellene, and in divine Aegeus, with all the seaside borderers and wide Helices friends, to Agamemnon every town her native birth commends, in double 50 sable barks. With him a world of men, most strong and full of valor went, and he in triumph then put on his most resplendent arms. That dwelt in fruitful Pellene, and in divine Aegeus, with all the seaside borderers, and wide Helices friends, to Agamemnon every town her native birth commends, in double 50 sable barks. With him a world of men, most strong and full of valor went, and he in triumph then put on his most resplendent arms, since he did overshine the whole heroic host. Resplendent arms, since he did overshine the whole heroic host of Greece in power of that design. Did overshine the whole heroic host of Greece in power of that design. In triumph then put on his most resplendent arms, since he did overshine the whole heroic host of Greece in power of that design. Okay. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to call it here. But that was good progress. Okay. With him a world of men, most strong and full of valor went, and he in triumph then put on his most resplendent arms, since he did overshine the whole heroic host of Greece in power of that design.